Every sports franchise has a player whom their own fan base hates, whether it be due to contract issues or refusal to dress up, overall demeanor, or missing a 30-yard field goal in the dying seconds of a championship game. Sports fans are always quick to turn on players who don their own jerseys. And ask any Bucs fans who is the most hated player in franchise history, you'll receive a variety of answers ranging from Michael Clayton, Josh Freeman, Keyshawn Johnson, and even sometimes Warren Sapp. But Sapp is probably more hated due to personality issues. That being said, the latter two played an instrumental part in the Buccaneers' first ever Super Bowl title in the 2002 season. And while the two were able to achieve the ultimate success in the game of football, the road to the end of the tunnel was a bumpy one that saw both stars on the team clash. As of more recently, the two were able to set aside their past, but this was a beef that spanned for over a decade, well beyond their playing days, and included both players attacking each other in the media even after retirement.
Keyshawn, I knew you were a bitch, and thanks for making it all worthwhile.
Guys, before we begin, make sure you turn on all notifications, as many of you have complained that you're not seeing my new uploads on your home pages. Also, if there's a video you'd like to see, let me know in the comment section below.
Billy Martin, straight from Brooklyn, better known as Brooklyn. Never taking shorts cause Brooklyn's the bomb.
So, to get a better understanding of this whole story, we have to travel back in time to the 1999 NFC Championship game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and St. Louis Rams. The Rams at the time were an offensive juggernaut, averaging 32.9 points per game, and they were led by NFL Offensive Player of the Year Marshall Faulk, wide receivers Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, and their quarterback Kurt Warner. The Rams went into this encounter as the third highest scoring team ever, and the Bucs had one of the league's best defense that was led by Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, and John Lynch. St. Louis had the number 2 ranked defense in the NFC and were a 2-touchdown home favorite. However, this was a game where not even 2 touchdowns would be scored all game. Instead, this was a fierce defensive matchup. This was a game that had all the recipe for a low-scoring affair: a combined total of 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, a missed field goal, a failed 2-point conversion, and a safety. And heading into the fourth quarter with a score 6-5 for the Bucs, it would take a piece of magic from Kurt Warner, who threw a pinpoint pass to receiver Ricky Proehl to take the go-ahead lead with just under 5 minutes left in the game. After the Bucs failed to score on their last drive, the Rams won the game 11-6 and were off to the Super Bowl. Now, this was obviously a heartbreaking loss for the Bucs team that seemed to have all the ingredients to make a push for the Super Bowl. They were a team that were going to beat you with their defense. Tampa had won 9 of their last 10 regular season games, so they were one of the hottest teams entering the playoffs. Since Week 10, rookie quarterback Sean King replaced the injured and inconsistent Trent Dilfer and led the Tampa offense, recording a respectable 7 touchdowns against 4 interceptions during that time. They also had a Hall of Fame head coach in Tony Dungy, so you could understand how many of the Bucs players felt after losing the championship game. However, no player would take this loss more personally than Tampa's defensive tackle Warren Sapp, who felt the team were missing one piece after holding the greatest show on turf to just 11 points on their home field. So fast forward to around 2 weeks later, on February 6, 2000 in Aloha Stadium in Honolulu, Hawaii for the Pro Bowl, a game where all the NFL's best would gather. And it was here in Hawaii where one of the game's best receivers would confront Warren Sapp about joining forces. New York Jets wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson had just come off a season where he recorded 89 receptions for 1,170 yards and 8 touchdowns. And at this particular time, the receiver wasn't too pleased with his $2.4 million salary and was looking to renegotiate. However, the Jets were unwilling to cave into Johnson's demands, which still had 2 seasons left on it. This ultimately led to a sticky situation between the two parties, as the Jets feared Johnson would stage a holdout over a new contract. In the end, this led Keyshawn taking shots at his new head coach Al Groh, with the coach likening his receiver's comments to that of an adolescent. That being said, there were rumors floating around that Al Groh, who was succeeding the legendary Bill Parcells, wanted to get rid of the receiver in order to begin rebuilding the team with his own set of players. Back at the Pro Bowl, Keyshawn knew he was a missing piece in the Bucs offense. For context, the Bucs really had no one in the skill position outside of running back Mike Alstott and Warrick Dunn. After second-year receiver Jaquez Green, who had 791 yards and 3 touchdowns to his name, there would be a huge drop-off in production to the next pass catcher. Simply put, the Bucs didn't have a standout receiver, and this is where Keyshawn would come in. Keyshawn was a former first overall pick in the '96 draft and was coming off his second straight Pro Bowl campaign. So the pitch was made to Warren Sapp, convincing the defensive tackle, who had just lost a championship game 2 weeks prior after giving up 11 points, that he could be the difference maker who could get those extra 7 points. Warren Sapp, being one of the leaders on the Bucs defense, had some clout and began lobbying to Tony Dungy and the Bucs management to make a trade for the disgruntled receiver. And on April 12, 2000, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New York Jets made a trade that changed the face of the 2000 NFL Draft. Tampa got their number 1 receiver in exchange for 2 first-round draft picks in the upcoming draft. This gave the 8-8 Jets a chance to rebuild their team, as they now had a total of 4 first-round draft picks that year. And in the end, Keyshawn Johnson got what he wanted as he inked a new 6-year, $52 million contract extension, which included a hefty $13 million signing bonus. Then came the offseason workout program, and this is when things between Keyshawn Johnson and Warren Sapp would deteriorate. The Bucs were a group that always worked out together in the offseason, but this being voluntary, Keyshawn didn't see eye to eye with them. And for whatever get Keyshawn to the Bucs, and the former USC receiver's refusal to show up for workouts didn't sit well with the linemen. In the end, he felt Keyshawn was just looking to get out of New York and was looking for a big payday. Say what you will about Warren Sapp's personality or how he treated others, but when it came to playing the game of football, he was a guy that would give you 110%. No one could ever question his commitment to the Bucs. He was somewhat the type of guy every team kinda needed, someone who pushed teammates to give it their all, someone who wasn't afraid to call out a teammate and keep others in check. Basically, Warren Sapp was often the resident dick in the locker room.
You know, Warren Sapp could be a bit of an ass. I mean, that's just who he is.
No, that's backwards, you dumbass. Which way are you facing? You about as dumb as a box of rocks.
That being said, Warren clearly wanted the newest addition of the team to get himself familiarized with teammates and the offense, and when this never happened, it kinda left a bitter taste in his mouth. So entering the 2000 season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had high hopes, especially after filling in one of the much needed voids on the team's offense. And with quarterback Sean King showing good progress in his rookie campaign, the youngster was basically asked to manage the game and let their defense do their thing. Tampa started off on the right track after impressive wins over the Patriots, Bears, and Lions, but things would soon fall apart as the team lost 3 straight games, and with a bye week right before their Thursday night matchup against the Lions, the media began focusing their attention on the turmoil in the locker room. There were a lot of rumblings that Warren continued hammering into Keyshawn, with the latter downplaying the whole drama in front of the media. Even head coach Tony Dungy had to chime in, stating that all was well between the pair. In fact, he further went on to say that the two were good buddies and often went out to dinner together. But knowing Warren Sapp, I highly doubt this was ever the case. In his first season, Keyshawn made immediate contributions and was fairly productive, but was not able to get the Bucs offense over the top. So on the Thursday night game in front of millions, Detroit traveled to Tampa and exacted revenge from their Week 3 loss early in the season with a 28-14 drubbing of the home team to make it 4 straight losses for Tampa. And with the media continuously putting a wedge between Keyshawn and Warren, the Bucs had to figure out a way to turn things around and fast. So the Week 9 division matchup against the Vikings saw Tampa snap their 4-game losing streak. Quarterback Sean King had a huge outing as he threw for 267 yards along with 4 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Keyshawn outshined fellow wide receivers Chris Carter and Randy Moss as he combined for 6 catches for a $121 and a touchdown as Tampa easily took care of Minnesota 41-13. Heading into the Week 17 encounter against the Packers, the Bucs had their eyes set on the division crown. However, an overtime loss to Green Bay gave the Vikings the division title in the old NFC Central, and this left Tampa with a wildcard matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles at Veterans Stadium. In this game, the Eagles held the Bucs to a mere field goal and went on to advance to the divisional round of the playoffs, and with that, Tampa's 2000 season was basically over. Keyshawn Johnson finished his first season in a Bucs uniform, amassing a total of 71 receptions for 874 yards and 8 touchdowns, and led the Bucs in all receiving categories. Clearly, he had a productive season, but fell short collectively with the offense as the Bucs had the 21st ranked total offense. Heading into the following season, the Bucs were one of the clear favorites to win the Super Bowl. They picked up former Washington QB Brad Johnson from free agency as he replaced Sean King for the 2001 season. Keyshawn got off to a hot start under the new QB and finished the campaign recording 4 games of over 100 yards. He finished the 2001 season with 106 catches for 1,266 yards, but failed to find the end zone more than once that season. Tampa barely made the playoffs with a 9-7 record for 3rd in the division and would go on to face an old foe in the Philadelphia Eagles. However, this was a game where Tampa clearly struggled on both sides of the field as Johnson threw 4 interceptions that game as Philly won the wildcard matchup 31-9. Now, this was a period of real frustration for the defense, who felt that the offense wasn't really up to par. And with that, Tampa made a head coaching change as they got John Gruden to replace Tony Dungy. While Dungy was more of a pat on the back for players, Gruden was the total opposite. He was the type that would have no problems ripping into players and giving them a piece of his mind. And as a former offensive coordinator, Gruden was brought in to fix the offense and bring more balance to the team. In the 2002 season, the Bucs played with new vigor under head coach John Gruden. They allowed opposing teams just 12.2 points per game, and after finishing the campaign going 12-4 for first in the new NFC South, they were looking to right all the wrongs from the past. Keyshawn had another great season in Tampa, recording over 1,000 receiving yards and 5 touchdown catches. After easily dispatching the 49ers in the divisional round, Tampa would get a chance to exact revenge on the Eagles as they met for the third straight time in the postseason. After a Keyshawn Johnson touchdown towards the end of the second quarter, Tampa took a 17-10 lead into the half. In the second half, the Bucs further added onto their lead with a field goal, and a Rondé Barber pick six led the Bucs past their NFC rival and onto the Super Bowl for the first time in their history. Super Bowl 37 saw John Gruden take on his former team, the Oakland Raiders. Tampa's defense came out and shined as they took a 20-3 lead in the first half. Later, the defense went on and scored 3 pick sixes on their way to cruise to a 48-21 win. And with that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were Super Bowl champions, and Warren Sapp finally received his coveted ring. 2003 saw the Bucs fall to 7-9 after a key injury to touchdown machine Mike Allstott and the struggles of kicker Martin Gramatica, who missed 10 of 26 attempts in 2003. The defense held their own through much of the season through Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp, but the real issue that season was the fact that they lost too many one-possession games that eventually started to break down the locker room and front office. You had tension growing between head coach and GM Rich McKay, who ultimately left for Atlanta after the season, and tensions between Keyshawn Johnson and pretty much everyone. In the end, Johnson got suspended for the final 7 games of the season after throwing a tantrum and yelling at the head coach on Monday Night Football. The following offseason, the receiver was traded to the Dallas Cowboys and reunited with his former Jets coach, Bill Parcells. So in the end, while the franchise did achieve glory, the decline of this legendary Bucs group came rather rapidly as the franchise began offloading a host of players. Warren Sapp went to Oakland while John Lynch signed with the Denver Broncos, and while it seemed as though the feud between Warren Sapp and Keyshawn Johnson looked to be over, the two occasionally took pot shots at one another well after their playing days. However, it now seems as of more recent that the pair have put their past behind them and let bygones be bygones. Keyshawn on his ESPN morning show had his former teammate on as a guest as they reminisced on their time together as teammates.